Uh, I know most of us all here were at the wedding yesterday, and I know some of you probably left at certain times, and I was talking to some people, and I was like, I'm sure half of us will not come today, because I'm sure like people stayed till like 2 or 3, and then not only that, but today's Mother's Day, so yeah, we got the double whammy here, but it's still good. I'm glad that all of you are here. I just want to say Happy Mother's Day. I know we got some mothers in the house. I know we got a few. I mean, God's been gracious to us that the last year we get to have mothers in our members. So, we have Tiffany, we have Kiki, and we have Gloria. We just went back there to the kitchen right there. And then there's my wife, and there's Dr. Josephine. And Dr. Josephine had to go speak today in Lynchburg, so that's why she's not here. And then we have Chelsea. And am I missing anyone? I think that's all the mothers. We have about 6 mothers in our church. And, so I thought today that I'll give you a little Mother's Day speech. Well, I know it might apply to some mothers, but it also applies to women today. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not an expert on women. I don't think I'll ever be an expert on women. But I do have a godly woman. And I do have someone that I could look up to and see an example of what it means to be a godly woman. And I just wanted to share that to you. This is Mother's Day, so I just wanted to share a Mother's Day sermon with you. I know that our series is supposed to be on stewardship, but we'll go ahead and continue that next week. But before that, I know, like I said, some of you were here, were there yesterday at the wedding. And the verse that I shared at the wedding was Psalms 37, I think chapter 4. And it says, "Delight in the Lord. And when you delight in the Lord, He will fulfill your desires." Even though I said that to Daniel and Amy, I think that verse applies to all of us. Is your happiness in the Lord? Has your happiness been in the Lord? Have you been really delighting in God? Have you been really enjoying and thanking and really being in His presence in these last couple of weeks? If you haven't, that's the beauty of God, that He still forgives us. And maybe you just need a little kickstart. Maybe you just need a little prayer. Maybe you just need a little more motivation and dedication to step back up into the plate and start living and being delighted in the Lord again. Some of you know yesterday it was a testament. Yesterday, how God is so good. They said it was supposed to be 70% rain yesterday. It was pouring on Friday, and like I said, on Friday night, it was pouring. I was thinking, like, oh man, the ground's going to be all soggy. It's going to be all wet. People are going to be slipping. Just all the nice people with nice shoes are going to get dirty. But when I woke up the next morning, it was kind of gloomy. Then as the day progressed, it became very sunny. It became very beautiful outside. It was an amazing, amazing day yesterday. Yeah, so what's crazy is that I don't know how many of you, when you guys left the wedding that night, on your way home, did it rain? It rained. Yeah. It was pouring rain. It was crazy, wasn't it? Like I thought that for sure the rain was going to be all pouring at the wedding place, but I heard that the wedding didn't have any rain till like 10:30 at night. So God held the rain around that area. I feel like maybe there's a sort of bubble around that area, so all the rain just kind of wrapped around itself and passed it on. But anyways, God is good. God is good, and
all the time.
Yes, all the time. And I'm sure all of you can testify that God was delighted in Daniel and Amy, because you know how Daniel and Amy has grown so much and has given their lives to the Lord. So it's a testament. It's a testament that it is true that if we delight in the Lord, God will fulfill our desires. So I just wanted to share today a little bit about mothers, or on Mother's Day. I think some of you who are mothers here, and some of you hope to be mothers one day, and some of you might think of your own mothers as we take this time to thank our mothers. We know that moms have a tremendous amount of pressures these days. They have the toughest job in the world. If you just think for a moment what is expected from them in our society, we think of them that they have to have a successful career. They have to keep the house spotless. They have to raise the perfect children. They have to be great cooks. They have to look like models. Or they have to be very charming and very great conversationalism, like where it's converse with people very
conversationalists.
Conversationalists, right? There's a poem that was written. It said, here's a poem. It said, she cooked the breakfast first of all, washed the cups and plates, dressed the children and made sure stockings were all made, combed their hair, made their beds, sent them out to play, gathered up their motley toys, put some books away, dusted chairs, mopped the stairs, ironed an hour or two, baked a jar of cookies and a pie, then made a pot of stew. The telephone rang constantly, the doorbell did the same, a youngster fell and stubbed his toe, and then the laundry came. She picked up the blocks, mended the socks, then she polished up the stove, and when her husband came at 6, he said, I envy you. It must be nice to sit at home without a thing to do. Yeah, so, obviously this man has no clue of what it means to be a woman. There's a study done by an attorney, Michael Minton, and he took a survey of wives and their services at home, and he basically generated a list of different various functions that women do and at home. And the mother is a chauffeur, is a gardener, is a family counselor, is a maintenance worker, is a cleaning woman, is a housekeeper, is a cook, is an errand runner, is a bookkeeper, is an interior decorator, is a caterer, a dietitianist, a secretary, and a hostess. So all these things, he put it up into one thing. And he actually did a study, and then he put together all the labor work of all these people and combined it to say that if she would have this kind of job, she would be making $985 a week. That's $51,220 a year, probably even more. So just the housework that she's doing, it's worth $50,000 of her doing things at the house. So when we think about motherhood, we think about that's a tough job. It's tough. Or how about let's take some couple examples of little children when they talk about their mothers. Right? Some kids were asked the question, why did God make mothers? And one of the kids said, mostly to clean the house, or to help us out there when we were getting born. Right? There's another question, how did God make mothers? God made my mom just the same like He made me. He just used bigger parts. Or like, why did God give your mother and not some other mother? Because we're related. So it says God knew she likes me a lot more than other people. Mom likes me. Right? Or, why did mom marry your dad? And the kid said, my grandma says that mom didn't have her thinking cap on. So like, what's the difference between moms and dads? And then one kid said, dads are taller and stronger, but moms have the willpower. Because that's who you got to ask if you want to sleep over at. Like another question, if you could change one thing about your mom, what would it be? He goes, one kid said, I would like to get rid of her eyes in the back of her head. Right? But Proverbs here in our verse today, the wise and great King Solomon, he writes a list of what a woman should be. And when you look at it, he describes mothers or women, people that can, sew, make clothes, buy her food, rise up before dawn, buy properly, plant, tend gardens and vineyards, trade profitably, clean the house, teach with wisdom, and love their work. Solomon goes and you see that Proverbs chapter 31 and how he describes what a woman ought to be. There's an actress, Ruth Hampton, who wrote this. She said, the most influential position in the nation today is held by a woman. She enforces the law, practices medicine, and teaches without a degree. She handles the nation's food, administers its drugs, and practices emergency first aid. This for all the spiritual, physical, and mental ills of the American family. A man literally places his life and the lives of his children in the hands of this woman. And he says, ... his wife. So we can say that a woman's job is very, very important. And just like how Solomon says in Proverbs 31, he gives us a clear picture of what it means to be a godly woman. And if you look at there in verse 10, Proverbs 31, verse 10, this is what Solomon says. It says, an excellent wife who can find? She is far more precious than jewels. The cost of a godly woman, according to Solomon, is someone that is very, very rare. A godly woman, or in some translation says, a noble woman. The word noble here means virtuous, fine. To say that a woman, a godly woman, is far more precious than rubies, you're basically saying that a godly woman is priceless. I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, a credit card ad that had this, like, they had a scenario where somebody will purchase something and, like let's say, for example, purchase the bike, $20, and then it says purchase the car, $20,000, and then you have all the family riding the car that he's purchasing, and they're like family time, priceless. Remember that commercial?
MasterCard,
exactly. MasterCard commercial. But this is what Solomon is trying to portray. That a godly woman in today's society, and even back then, to find a godly woman, to find a woman that's godly, is a rare, rare find. It's priceless. And if you have such a woman, and if you find such a woman, you are very blessed to have her. But here's the thing. All of you, every woman in this building, every woman in this place, has the ability to be a godly woman. You have the ability to be rare in today's society. Especially the women that are growing up in today's society. That you can be different. That you can have confidence. You can have just motivation to live your life for the Lord and be different from this world. I don't know about you, but the more I see as I grow older, the more I see that today's women are far more aggressive than they ever used to be. And that's in the sense of like things that are pretty like sinfulness. I remember growing up that it was very rare that a woman would ask a man to go on a date or do certain things. Well, today you see a lot of women take that initiative and say, do all these different things. And they're the more instigated than the men. So what I'm trying to say is that as a godly woman, as a Christian woman, as a woman who believes in God, make sure that your life is pure before Him, and that you are more precious than rubies. So here's what Solomon does. He gives us a character, some of the characters of a godly woman. In verse 11 and 12, it says, her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. To be a godly woman, to be a godly mother, to be a godly daughter, to be a godly woman, Solomon tells us here that first, have the understanding that you have been created to be a helper. Now here's the thing. This is for much more for those who are married or has a husband. But then this is some of the things that you could jot down in your notebook and say, when I be a wife, I am called to be a helper. Because this is what this is how God created the model of a marriage. When you look at Genesis, when you go back to Genesis, when God created Eve, God created someone to help Adam. He saw that Adam was someone that, needed support. He saw that Adam needed someone to talk to. He saw that Adam needed somebody to bounce his emotions. He knew that, Adam needed somebody that was basically keep him in line and help him throughout his troubles. Because he knew that men needed help. Now here's the thing. The wrong thinking is that you think that women are slaves. Like, okay, some guys might think, okay, woman means helper. All right, it means help around the house. Make sure that she does the laundry. Make sure she does the dishes. Make sure that she cooks the food when I get home at night. No, that's not the helper that God intended. The helper that God intended for women was to be that person, that support that the men need. When you get married, some of you ladies who are single, and those that are married, or those that are going to get married, your job, your calling, is to be the helper to your man. You're there to when he's going through the most troublous time, every man needs a woman to give encouragement. Every man needs a woman, his wife, to have total confidence. You know, when I think about my wife, I can tell you honestly that there are many times when I feel that I'm inadequate. And from my upbringing and from the things that I've grown up, you know, there's a lot of things I don't do well. I don't. And I'm not embarrassed to say it, because I know that, you know, I think that's one of the things that God has allowed me to experience. It's because I know that I can never do anything without God's strength. I think that's one thing that, you know, in my heart, that I'm glad that I had that experience. That I know I'm not too smart enough to say I did all my own. No, I need help like nothing. And if I had a wife that didn't support that, if I didn't have a wife if I had a wife that continuously said, "Oh, what are you doing? Oh, you know, what about this? You know, can't you measure up to this? How come you're not doing this? How come you're not making much like this?" If I constantly had someone like that, I think I wouldn't be where I am now. I don't think I'll be the person that I am right now. But I thank God that I had. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not boasting. I'm not being conceited that I have the greatest wife in the world. I kind of do. But to me. But I just wanted to share like a little bit with Sister Una and how rare of a kind she was to me, you know, and how she constantly gives me the freedom and gives me the opportunity to grow. She allows me to grow. She doesn't put me in the cage where I can't grow. She allows me, through encouragement and through her support and her help, to help me become a better person. So, woman, one of the things that you're called to do is to be that helpmate for your future spouse, or for the spouse that you have. Because when you do that, if you look at it, you know, then the husband will begin to trust her, will begin to benefit from her. And not only that, but then the man will potentially fulfill his full potential. If you look at Proverbs 31:23, what does it say? It says, her husband is known at the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. What that basically means is that because of his wife, he has become well known to the people. You know, back in the old days, they used to sit around the gates. And because of his wife and the way she supported him, he began to fulfill his full potential. So, woman, if you want your man to be successful, you must support him. You know, there's a great saying, right? There's a great saying, what? Behind every successful man, there's a greater successful woman. That is so true. That is so true. Behind every successful man, there is a woman that is greater. And women, you know, and when you look at that, I feel like, you know, women don't get a lot of recognition. But through their man, through their support, the man becomes successful. So, Henry Emerson Foster, he's a renowned preacher. This is what he said about his wife. He said that he wondered throughout his life why women, though equal or superior to men in brains, had not achieved the public accomplishments of man. Responding to his own question, he said, "At last I know the answer. No woman ever had a wife." Well, he said, I don't know. Anyways. All right, so the second thing is, not only is the woman supposed to be a helpmate, but the woman is to be a hard-working woman. A hard-working woman. If you look up throughout the chapters of Proverbs 31, specifically chapters 13 through 19, 23 to 24, 26 to 27, it portrays this type of characteristic. It portrays the hard-working woman. And everything is a precise job description of what a woman does. But it's not what the description, it's not how well, or the quality of the job that this woman does. But it's about the quality of how she approaches it, and how she handles it, and how she manages it. You see, a woman, with the things that she has entrusted in her life, with the attitude that she needs to portray, and everything that this verse and all the chapters in 31, what you must realize that a woman must carry out her duties with joy.
A woman must care for her family, not because she has to, but because she wants to. A woman must provide for her family out of love, not compulsion. A woman is supposed to be willing to go the extra mile for her family, to sacrifice some sleep if necessary. A woman is not afraid of hard work or long days. A woman knows how to stretch a dollar. A woman relishes the challenges of making her house or home. A woman may work outside the house, but her main priority is her job at home. You know, like I said, throughout this whole thing, I was thinking about my wife. You know, my wife, growing up, one of her dreams was to always stay home and be the mother of Adelaide to grow. Like, she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And unfortunately, because of different things, she had to work. And not once in our 13 years of marriage, because she had to work, I think, as soon as Adelaide was born, about a couple months into Adelaide's birth, she had to work. And we just couldn't support ourselves. So for the last 12 years, she's been working. And she's been working like 9 to like 7 and long hours a day. But she never once complains. And her attitude is that God had given me the opportunity to work. But even though she works so much at her job, her influence, her job when she comes home, and how she treats the children, and how she treats me, and how she treats my mom, because my mom lives with us, it's an amazing thing that she does. Yeah, she puts her priority of the family. And she knows that her real job is at home, and her work on the outside is just the means that God gave us to support us for that. So as a godly woman, as a person, as a woman, as you grow up, God might give you the opportunity to work. God might give you the opportunity to have a career, a great career. But make sure that you don't allow your career to take over your real career, which is at home, and to take care of your family. You know, a woman was visiting her friend who had 2 small children. And as she saw them running around playing joyfully, she said to her friend, "I give my life to have 2 such children." In which her friend replied, "That's exactly what it costs. That's exactly what it costs. It will cost your life." But it is supposed to be, and this is what it means to be a godly woman, to take care of your home, to take care of what has been entrusted to you. And the third thing is this: not only are you supposed to be a helpmate, not only are you supposed to be hardworking, but also a godly woman must be compassionate. Must be compassionate. Let's face it, men. God created women to be more compassionate. I mean, when we were growing up, when we got a cut, when we got a bruise, who did we go to usually? We usually go to our mothers. You know, as one kid said, moms have the magic. They make you feel better without medicine. You know, when we need a shoulder to cry on, when we need something, we usually go to our mother. When we were growing up, we go to our mother. Rarely did we go to our father for compassionate feelings. Not to say that dad didn't care, but it's just something different going to moms. But the thing is, that what Solomon tells us, if you look at verse 20, she says, in verse 20, Solomon says, she opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. You see what Solomon is saying is, yes, you can be compassionate to your family, but a true godly woman just does not show compassionate to her own family, but shows compassionate outside the home. Outside the home. A woman will be compassionate when she sees someone in need. A godly woman will be compassionate of someone else's kids. And I don't know if you know, but there's some moms out there that say, like, they'll always like wonder about the other kid. Like, oh, I wonder how that kid is raising up. I'll give you an example. Like, you know, if you were to see a kid outside the streets playing around where there's a lot of cars, most men will honk their horn and say, "Get out of the streets." We'll yell, "Get out of the streets." Or, you know, we'll say, "Don't you know better?" Or, "Where are your parents?" That's how men are created. That's how God created men. But usually when women see kids play out in the street, what they usually do, they'll slow down and they will wait. And I'm pretty sure they'll wonder, is anybody here? Or I should get their families. I should notify their families. You know, like this happened a couple weeks ago. I was pulling into my driveway and then I was coming out and I went to my mailbox and there's no kidding. Like some of you know my house. We have a four-way crossway, and one of the crossways is just a straight in. These two sides that come in is a stop sign. This one has a right of way. There's no stop sign. And I was walking to my mailbox and this black car was coming. Not too fast, but then there's this kid that was on his bicycle. He just went past the stop sign and the girl actually hit the boy. And right before my eyes, I saw the car hit the boy. The boy flew about 10 feet. I was like, oh my gosh. It was like, oh my, and I ran over there and the lady was like, are you okay, are you okay? And the boy just got up and said, oh, I'm good. He was like maybe 15 years old. And I was just thinking, you sure you're okay? He's like, no, I'm fine, I'm fine. And the lady was like, are you sure you're okay? You need to go to the hospital. I said, no, I don't need to go. But then the lady left and I was just speaking to the guy and I was like, you sure you're okay, man? He was like, yeah, man, I'm good, I'm good. You sure? Yeah. You don't need to go to the hospital? No, I'm good. I said, all right, man. You're tough, man. You're tough. and then I left. and I told my wife, and my sister was like, what? You didn't take him to his house? You didn't take him and tell her his mother? You know? Don't you think that's what you should do? You should take him to the mother and tell him what happened? Because you were one of the witnesses. So she wanted the extra care for me to take. I wasn't thinking. He said it was okay. You know, he said it was all right. It's like, no, you need to take him into the mother and make sure that everything's okay with them. You need to do that. And I was like, okay, next time I will.
Yeah. Next time you see someone get hit.
I think that's how God created us as men, and you know, and women, and so woman, as a godly woman, you need to allow your compassion, be compassionate to those, not just your house, but to those that are in need of compassion. Even God Himself said it in Isaiah chapter 66, verse 13. God said, as a mother comforts her child, so will I comfort you. God Himself says, remember the compassion of your mother. A lot of us can say that we have a very compassionate mother. So you who are women, who are godly, you must have that compassionate heart. And the last thing is this, is a godly woman must be confident. When it snows, she has no fear of her household. In verse 21. In Proverbs 31:21 it says, when it snows, she has no fear for her household. A woman is confident. A godly woman is confident because she knows that God will provide. She knows without a shadow of doubt that her God will provide every need of her household. She does not have to worry. She does not have to be constant of saying, oh, you know, we're going to get this or we're going to have this. No, she puts all her trust into God and allow God to work His power. Once again, I say this because yesterday at the wedding, Adelaide had a tremendous bad allergy. I've never seen this before. She was helping with the chairs, and apparently the pollen got so bad that she began to itch her face, and all of a sudden, beneath her eyes and around her cheeks, a lot of bumps started to form, like really bad. It got really bad, and my mom gave her Sudafed, congestion nose, and she took that, and I think it got worse. And she was like, keep itching, and she was sweating, and we were at the house, and I was getting kind of panicky. I was like, are you okay? She's like, I'm okay. Can you breathe? She's like, I can breathe. And I was like, we need to go to the doctor. You need to go to the emergency room. No, right now. And then, you know, they're like, well, why don't you give Benadryl? I was like, are you sure you can take 2 medicines at the same time? You know, I was being really crazy. Like, I was like nervous. You know, I told my wife, take her to the hospital right now. And my wife was like, no, she doesn't need it. No, she doesn't need it. And she didn't really talk that much. And I was like, oh, you sure? I said, are you okay? I said, I'm fine. So I had to go. So I said, I left. And then on the ride home, my wife said something interesting. She She said, honey, you're overreacting. You're overreacting. I said, what do you mean? She said, I know, I have the confidence that when my daughter is in an emergency, I can feel it. I can feel it when she needs extra more attention. And she says, my wife said that she knows it because God gives her the peace. And I was like, wow, really? She said, yeah, that's amazing. See, there's something about a godly woman that has that peace. Even when Tavil hurt his eye, I don't know, I didn't really post this on Facebook, but 3 or 4 weeks ago, Tavil was playing baseball, and he was a pitcher, and the baseball bat hit the ball and came right back and hit his eye. I didn't post it on Facebook. I didn't want to get scared, but apparently it made a big crack. I wasn't there. It was a big crack, boom, and all the people on the stands came out. Doctors came out. They rushed to the field. He was on the ground for like 15 minutes. I was on my way to pre-marriage counseling, and I was in my car, and then my mom called me. She said, "You got to come back to the baseball field. Tavil just got hurt." And there's something like I hate when that happens because that's exactly the same way my mom called me when my dad passed away. My mom said, "You got to come to Korea. That your dad passed away." So when she said, "You got to come back to the baseball field," Tavil just got hurt, and that's all she said. Because that's all she could say. My heart is just racing. What happened? What happened? You know? And my mom kind of briefly explained. He got hit in the eye, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." I was thinking about all these baseball stories. How I don't know if you guys remember. There's a baseball player named Kirby Puckett. He got hit by the baseball in the eye, and he lost his eyesight. He can't see in the eye of his eye. I'm thinking, I'm going nervous. I'm like anxious. My wife is there. Is just sitting calm. She's like, just didn't say a word. And then we get to the baseball field, and doctors, and I see Tavil with a big ice pack, and the doctor there. I think I shared this story a couple weeks ago, but the doctor there, he began to like tell me all these different things. Like he's saying like, "Oh man, God was amazing. That any higher or any lower, his eye could have went out. Like his actual pupil could have got busted. Or any lower than that, if you got hit right here, there's a bone right here. If it broke, his eye socket, his eyes could have fell down. His eye could have fell." And but he said, thank God that God made this little crater right here, this little thing that sticks out to protect the eyes. And I think I shared with you that the doctor's actually evangelizing to me because he's a good Christian. He goes to church. And I think I mentioned that his church name is Crossway. He goes to church. No, this is no joke. His church is Crossway. And I said, "Oh, I'm a pastor." He said, "Oh, good." I told him my church was Crossover. He's like, "Oh, isn't that amazing how God works?" Yeah. But it was crazy to see a doctor, like someone that I don't really know, evangelizing to me and through his ways. But anyways, while we were at the hospital, my wife's like, as soon as she heard that Tavil got hurt, she said that God gave her a tremendous amount of peace, that everything was going to be okay. And I'm like, give me that peace. How do you get this peace? I'm just worried the next time, what happens that she don't get that peace? I'm worried. But Sister Una has that great confidence in her God and her Lord, that even though when there's a lot of snow, even though there's a lot of trauma, even though there's a lot of things that might be happening, she has confidence in her household. She has confidence in her God, that God will protect and provide every single need for her. And I can truly testify that my wife is someone that I can say that's been a really big impact. And I'm not saying just because I'm a pastor up here and I'm the person here to say about others, but if there's someone that you can kind of really look up to Sister Una and ask her all these questions and get a lot of things from her. And the last thing is this. In verse 30, Solomon tells us, "Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised." The last thing I want you guys to understand is, it doesn't matter how pretty you are, it doesn't matter how much charm you have, it doesn't matter if you are ranked number 10. If you don't fear the Lord, you're basically as a man, if you want to find a good woman, if you want to find a woman that will be that supportive, be that woman that's going to support you, to be a hardworking woman, you must find a woman who fears the Lord. You must find a woman who fears the Lord. Women who are out there, mothers who are out there, you must be a woman that fears the Lord. That fear of the Lord basically means not a fear of afraid, but a fear of that you take God seriously, that you will walk in His footsteps. In Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10 says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom." You must fear your God. Find your life into His hands. Allow the Spirit to work into you. It's only when you give up your life into the hands of God will you only then become priceless as a godly. So be that godly woman. Be that godly mother. Be that godly mother to your children, to your spouse. To be that future godly woman. For this Mother's Day, maybe you might not have a mother who's been godly, but still, maybe call up your mother today and tell her Happy Mother's Day. And tell them how much you love them. Even though they may have hurt you or done some things, they're still your mother. So it's good to just let them know that although things haven't gone the way you did, just kind of, hey, this year's Mother's Day, just want to say that. Thank you for what you've done. So we get praying for you. Happy Mother's Day. Happy all the women in here, all the ladies in here. Be godly. Let's pray.